Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say hello to you. Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. I wanted to give you some updates on market conditions that are happening in the world so that you can sort of look at your portfolio and stay on top of what's happening and kind of get a quick, my quick 2 cents on everything. It looks like FedEx has been put into the crosshairs of the Chinese government. I'm reading a report from Bloomberg that basically says that China is targeting FedEx in its escalating trade war with the U.S., giving a hint of the kind of foreign companies it may blacklist as unreliable. So one of the things that the Chinese are sort of doing is they're sort of responding to Trump's attacks on their economy by basically saying, look, two can play at that game. Huawei was a big Chinese company that the U.S. believes Huawei has links to the state, to the Chinese government. Huawei denies that. Huawei was going to be responsible for the implementation of 5G technology all over the world. The U.S. is standing in the way of that, and they're citing national security issues with that. So the Chinese are coming back and saying, "Oh, well, okay, well, fine, then we can claim that some of your companies are violating national security or national security risks, right?" Which basically is their way of saying, like, we're just going to stop them from doing business here, or if they're a threat to domestic firms, etc. So what they're saying here is, as detailed of China's criteria, as details of China's criteria trickled out, the investigation into FedEx's wrongful delivery of packages, end quote, was framed as a warning by Beijing after the Trump administration imposed a ban on business with telecom giant Huawei Technologies Company. To designate an untrustworthy foreign entity, China will look at whether it discriminates against domestic companies, the state-run Xinhua news agency said Saturday. Other considerations will be violations of market rules, breach of contract, harm caused to Chinese firms, and actual or potential threats to national security. So I actually feel like one of the biggest fish out here that's going to be impacted is Apple. I'm a little worried. Apple gets a lot of its supplies from China. I'm a big, I own some shares of Apple, and so I'm kind of expecting to get for those shares to get hit a little bit. FedEx, I think I own some FedEx too. So it looks like FedEx is, it might be sort of, the Chinese saying, like, look, we could do this all day. I don't know. It's hard to speculate on who has the stomach to withstand all of this. Trump brags. He loves to brag about how well the stock market is doing. He loves to brag about how well the economy is doing. But by keeping his campaign promises of dealing with the Chinese and currency manipulation and the trade deficit and things like that. And also, if you saw this week, he also put tariffs on Mexico over the border wall, and that fulfills his campaign promise where he said, "I will build the wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it." Well, if he puts the tariffs down as he did, Mexico is paying for that wall, kind of, sort of. Not so much paying for it in terms of, it's debatable in terms of how you consider paying for the wall, right? Some would say American consumers are paying for the wall because they're paying higher tariffs, but actually the purpose of tariffs is to reduce sales. So consumers are not paying the higher price necessarily; they're just switching over to lower cost American-made products or products from countries that don't have tariffs imposed. So both sides are a little bit off. Like, so when Trump says Mexico will pay for the wall, that's not really accurate. It really, you could say consumers are paying for the wall, or Mexico's paying for it indirectly in what we economists might call shadow costs. Just this extra, money they could have made that they didn't make because the tariffs are there and their sales are going to drop, right? So they are paying for the wall, but they're not paying for the wall, if that makes any sense. The same thing, the consumers aren't necessarily paying for the wall because you could say, okay, yeah, they're going to pay higher prices for goods. That does tend to happen when you impose tariffs, but at the same time, some would say that maybe, there could be increases in American jobs, which would increase income, right? So the thing about economics is it's so cyclical that A affects B, which affects C, which affects A. So you don't know really what hits what. The only thing you do know for sure is this. When two big countries like America and China are fighting, a lot of us lose. The global economy is going to lose. But sometimes these fights are necessary to establish territory because just because the global economy is winning doesn't mean everybody's winning equally. So some would argue that the trade deficit between the U.S. and China says that the Chinese were benefiting more than the Americans were from this free trade, that Mexico was benefiting more than the Americans were from the free trade. In fact, if you look at the trade deficit chart for America with Mexico, you saw that the trade deficit was positive with Mexico working in our favor until NAFTA. Once NAFTA hit, it went deep negative, right? So a lot of people would say, well, this is evidence that Mexico is benefiting more than we are. And so I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what part of the economy you're in. Depends on what your political position is. But I will say at the end of the day, this is not good. This fighting is not good. I hope that it ends because I've been losing money. You might have been losing money. But these things happen when you play the game of economics. Let me read a little bit more, and so we can hit the thumbs up button. I'm gonna read a little bit more, and then we'll bounce out of here. It says FedEx apologized this week for delivery errors on Huawei packages following reports that parcels were returned to senders. And China's biggest tech company said it's reviewing its relationship with the U.S. delivery service. So apparently, FedEx and Huawei are having some issues. Two packages containing documents were shipped to the company in China from Japan. They were diverted to the U.S. without authorization. So two packages containing documents being shipped to Huawei in China from Japan were diverted to the U.S. Ooh, that's not good. That kind of can make the Chinese argue, this is a violation of our national security because you're taking stuff that you're taking our mail. It's like your neighbor mail or somebody across the country mailing you a package and they send it to your neighbor's house and you're like, wait, did you do that on purpose or did you do that by accident? Or whatever, right? Because they're basically taking your private correspondence and giving it to somebody else. China opened a probe because FedEx violated Chinese laws and regulations and harmed customers by misdirecting packages, Xinhua said. Now that China has established a list of unreliable entities, the investigation into FedEx will be a warning to other foreign companies and individuals that violate Chinese laws and regulations, said, the Chinese-controlled media. FedEx said it values business in China and its relationship with Chinese clients, including Huawei. FedEx will fully cooperate with any regulatory investigation into how we serve our customers. That's what FedEx said. Potential targets. China will publish a white paper on its position on trade talks with the U.S. on Sunday in Beijing. So Sunday is today's Saturday. That's the day I'm doing this video. Tomorrow, Sunday, of course. The document will be released at 10 a.m. And Vice Commerce Minister Wang Xiaowen will take questions according to an official statement. China said Friday it will draw up a list of unreliable entities that harm the interests of Chinese companies. That opens the door to targeting a broad swath of the global tech industry from U.S. giants like Alphabet Inc.'s Google, Qualcomm, and Intel Co. to non-American suppliers that have cut off Huawei, such as Toshiba and ARM. Xinhua has two hashtags, and Weibo is, I guess, one of the social media platforms in China. The hashtags are China-U.S. trade and retaliate against U.S. trade bullying. So it looks like they're kind of rallying the whole country behind this cause to say, we're not going to let the Americans kick our butt. And that means a lot because I think the Chinese sort of feel like they've been the little brother of the United States. So when the little brother gets a chance to beat up the big brother, sometimes you'll take a few more punches than you might otherwise because you have a point to prove. But then again, you can't overestimate the bullying of Donald Trump now, can we? Okay, so basically the markets are rattled all week long. The markets have been hit pretty hard. My hope is that things will get better, but there's no guarantee that things will improve, and that's what it is. So that's my analysis. That's my quick breakdown. I'm out of here, guys. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Thank you for hanging out with us at the Black Financial Channel. Make sure you subscribe at theblackfinancialchannel.com, and I shall see you soon. And also, don't forget, if you actually want to learn about stock market investing from a fundamental standpoint, my PhD is in stock. Well, it's in finance, but my expertise is the stock market. I'd love to teach you at theblackstockmarketprogram.com. That's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. See you soon. Have a great day. Peace.